I want to talk a little bit about friendship, because this is really a very difficult thing for these young adults. In all three of my books, Laughing, Allegra, and On Their Own, and A Special Mother, I devote an entire chapter to this issue, and it really can tear at a mother's heart. And that issue is friendship. So many parents assume that LD or ADHD is confined just to the classroom and to academics. Many of them are completely shocked to discover that's not the case at all. And as I said in one of the books, learning disabilities do not take summer vacations. Much of the difficulty comes down to lack of social skills. Most of us have met somebody in our lives who just seemed to be just fine on the surface, but then suddenly said something or did something that was a little bit off. Maybe made no eye contact at all, or suddenly shifted the conversation inappropriately, or simply walked away. Our first reaction may be to think that the person's strange or even rude, and we may conclude that it is better to avoid that person in the future. But those of us who are familiar with learning disabilities see this scenario all the time. Isolation and being left out can happen to any child with a disability, even to one who appears to be extremely popular and actually very well liked. And it doesn't end with childhood. In On Their Own, my second book, I wrote the schoolyard taunts can too easily turn into jokes told around the water cooler. The isolation experienced in childhood can be carried on into adulthood, and it usually is self-imposed. So, what can we mothers do to encourage friendship for our children? It's a really important thing for them to have friends, and we have to help them. One of the things I did with Allegra was to include her in every social activity that I could. So she got used to having to make small talk. And then I taught her just the basic sort of etiquette rules. And then the most important thing was really to listen, not talk all the time. It's really funny because I actually taught Allegra how to compliment people on what they're wearing and how their hair is. And my God, she took it to extreme. Everybody she met, she automatically would go up to them and say, you have the prettiest dress on I've ever seen, or did you just get your hair done, or but this made her seem normal to other people. And everybody she complimented just loved her. Most of the time it was teachers and older people, but that didn't matter. And a funny thing about Allegra was that, and I didn't actually teach her to do this, she picked it up on her own, and I think it's pretty interesting. She got a hold of People magazine and Us magazine and all those juicy gossip magazines, and she read them all, and she actually could read them all, which is interesting too. And then she could sort of talk to people that weren't learning disabled people. They were adults, and she could talk about what the latest movie was. And the other thing she does is she's an avid exercise person. She works out every single day, and when she works out, she has the Today Show on. So what she's done is she's picked up gossip about movie stars and that, but she's also picked up important information in the news, and she can then talk about it. So I did write about this in the book because I think it's really important for parents to know to do that with their children. And it doesn't take a great deal of time or effort, but I want to tell you something. It has really worked well for Allegra.